Good morning. I am Rinki Mulchandani from Dr. Ambedkar Institute of Management Studies and Research, Diksha Bhumi, Nagpur. Today, I'm going to deal on the topic elasticity of demand and price elasticity of demand. So, the learning objective is to understand the price elasticity of demand and to classify the price elasticity of demand. We have already seen what exactly the elasticity of demand is. Still, let's brush up once. Elasticity of demand always measures the responsiveness or the sensitiveness of the quantity demanded of a commodity to the change in any one of the variables on which demand depends. These variables may be price of the commodity, price of the related commodities, income of the consumers, and many other factors on which demand depends. Now, today we are going to see the topic price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand also measures the degree of responsiveness of a quantity demanded of a commodity to change in its price. Here, the we are referring only the price with the quantity demanded. So when the rate of change in the demand for a commodity due to change in price is measured, then we make use of the concept price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand also reflects how sensitive buyers are towards any changes in price. Let us see the definition of price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand can be defined as a ratio of the percentage change in quantity demanded of a commodity to the percentage change in its own price. Now, what does this mean? It may also be expressed as EP equals to percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price. When we calculate it, we'll get change in quantity upon original quantity into 100 whole divided by change in price upon original price into 100. This is further elaborated as change in quantity demanded upon quantity demanded divided by change in price upon price. Now, it is also written in the form of symbols. EP, E stands for elasticity, E stands for price. Delta Q upon Q, delta means change, Q means original quantity. Delta P means change in price and this P means original price. So here it is written as Q equals to original quantity demanded, P equals to original price, delta stands for change in quantity demanded, here change in price. So delta Q upon Q divided by delta P upon P. Let us derive it further. When we will convert the division sign into the multiplication sign, then the numerator becomes the denominator. So here what we can see, delta Q upon Q into P upon delta Q. Now further, if we take into the like terms, it's delta Q upon delta P into P upon Q. So price and quantity demanded are inversely related. So the value of price elasticity coefficient will always be negative. But we ignore the negative sign and consider only the numerical value. So the value of elasticity coefficient may change from 0 to infinity. So after solving that equation, if the coefficient value is 0, then we consider that the demand is said to be perfectly inelastic. When the coefficient lies between 0 and unity, the demand is said to be inelastic. When the coefficient is equal to unity, demand is known as unitary elasticity demand. When coefficient is greater than 1, demand is said to be elastic. In extreme cases, coefficient could be infinite. Now, let us see the degrees or kinds or types of price elasticity of demand. As we know that price elasticity measures the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a commodity to a change in its price. Depending upon the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded to the price changes, we can have the following kinds of price elasticity of demand: perfectly inelastic demand, perfectly elastic demand, unitary elastic demand, highly elastic demand, less elastic demand. Let us see them in detail. So perfectly inelastic demand. Here the coefficient value will always be equals to 0. So when the demand of a commodity does not change with the change in price, then demand for such commodity is said to be perfectly inelastic. For example, here price rises from rupees 20 to 30. The quantity demand does not change, it remains unchanged. So that means what? It is the case of the perfectly inelastic demand. If price falls by 20% and quantity demand remains unchanged, means quantity demand is 0, then in this case what we can see that this DD curve line is parallel to y-axis and it does not change, it is inelastic in nature. So let us say if the price is rupees 10, the quantity demanded is same. If the price increases from 10 to 15, then also the quantity demand is same. The price decreases from P2 to P3, then also the quantity demand is same. Now where does this case applies or where it exists? For example, a diabetic patient, he needs to take insulin. So if the price will be high or low, there will be no change in the demand of insulin for a diabetic patient. Now let us see how this diagram is drawn. First of all, draw x-axis, then draw y-axis. Now draw the price, normal price. And at normal price, the demand curve is a DD curve parallel to y-axis. Now if the price rises from P to P1, the demand is still same as you can see here. Now if the price decreases from P to P2, the demand is still the same. There is no change in the quantity demanded. Therefore, here EP, that is price elasticity, equals to 0. So the coefficient value is 0. Therefore, it is also known as perfectly inelastic demand. So the figure shows that whatever the price may be, the quantity demanded of a commodity remains unchanged. So this is the case with perfectly inelastic demand. Now let us see the second case, that is perfectly elastic demand. When with no change in price or with very little change in price, the demand for a commodity either expands or contracts to any extent, then the demand is said to be perfectly elastic. Now in this case, the demand curve is a horizontal straight line which is parallel to x-axis. So let us see how to draw the curve. First of all, draw x-axis and label it as quantity demanded. Then draw y-axis and label it as price. Now draw a DD curve, that is the horizontal line parallel to x-axis. Now the third point is unitary elastic demand. Now here what we can see that when the percentage or proportionate change in price is equal to the percentage or proportionate change in quantity demanded, then the demand is said to be unit elastic demand. Now, for example, here the rise in price is from rupees 10 to rupees 15. the demand also decreases from 100 to 50. So what we can see that in this case, price elasticity is equals to 1 and demand curve is a rectangular hyperbola in this. It also means that there is an exact percentage change in quantity demanded with respect to price. So let us see how to draw this curve. Very first thing, draw x-axis and label it as quantity demanded. Then draw y-axis and label it as price. Now draw the price and the quantity demanded. Now you can draw that when the price decreases from P to P1, the quantity demanded increases from Q to Q1. So here, if the price decreases from P to P1 at 10%, then the quantity demanded increases from Q to Q1 as 10%. Now join these 2 points, this one and this one, draw a downward sloping demand curve here, term it as DD. So what we can see that this is an exact equal proportionate change in price brings an exact equal proportionate or percentage change in quantity demanded. This is known as unitary elastic demand. Now let us see the fourth one, highly elastic demand. Highly elastic demand is also known as relatively elastic demand. So here we are talking about the price and the quantity demanded in such a way that there is a small change in price and which is going to bring a more than proportionate change in quantity demanded. So it means that when percentage change in quantity demanded is more than the percentage change in price, then the demand for such commodity is said to be highly elastic demand. Here the demand curve you can see is flatter in nature. For example, if price falls by 10% and demand rises by 30%, then price elasticity will be 30 by 10, and when we solve it, we get the coefficient value of 30 by 10 equals to 3, and 3 is always greater than 1. So the coefficient of price elasticity would be somewhere between 1 and the infinity. So demand curve is a flat curve which is relatively elastic or highly elastic. Now let us see how to draw it. First of all, draw x-axis and name it as quantity demanded. Then draw y-axis and label it as a price. Now draw at original price, original quantity is demanded. Now when the price decreases from P to P1 at 10%, the quantity demanded increases from Q to Q1 at 30%. Now let us see this percentage change. What we can see here is the change in percentage in price is 10% and the percentage change in quantity demanded is 30%. So as per the formula of percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price, what we can see that 30 by 10 will fetch us 3 coefficient value and 3 is always greater than 1. Now we'll draw a demand curve which is flatter in nature. This demand curve is relatively elastic demand curve. Now where does this case applies? It occurs in case of less urgent wants, or if the expenditure on the commodity is large, or if close substitutes are available. Now moving towards the last category or last kind of price elasticity of demand, the fifth one is less elastic demand. Now here a big change in price is going to bring a less than proportionate change in quantity demanded. In this diagram on the right hand side, you can see that the change in price is more, whereas the change in quantity demanded is less. So here less indicates what? Less change in quantity demanded. So when percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price, the demand for such a commodity is said to be less elastic. Now in this case, we will get the coefficient value always less than 1 and the demand curve has a steep slope. Let us see how to draw it. First of all, draw x-axis. Now draw y-axis and label it as P. Now draw at original price, original quantity is demanded. Now when the price decreases from P to P1 by 30%, we see that the quantity increases from OQ to OQ1 by 10%. Now we'll draw a demand curve. Now this demand curve is having a steeper slope, which suggests that demand is less elastic or relatively inelastic. Now where does this less elastic demand case applies? It applies in case of compulsory goods, that is necessaries of life like food, clothing, shelter, etc. So these were the 5 different kinds of price elasticity of demand. Perfectly inelastic demand, perfectly elastic demand, unitary elastic demand, uh, relatively elastic demand, and relatively inelastic demand. This less elastic demand is also termed as relatively inelastic demand. Thank you.